Hey guys, so what you're seeing on your screen right now is the Morethan3D Spaceship 10, or S39. I've completely 3D printed and assembled this model. Morethan3D actually reached out and asked if I'd be interested in making a review video of this model. In exchange, they provided me with the files for free, but it won't influence anything I say. Today I'll show you what it's like to build this model from printing, assembly, and all the way to the finished result, and I'll let you know whether it's worth your time, so let's get started. Hey guys, so before we get too far into the video, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about Morethan3D. Morethan3D was founded and is run by Andu Ong. He graduated with an aerospace degree and started working for Rolls-Royce. On the side, he designed the 3D models starting with jet engines and eventually moved on, quit his job, and has recently, full-time, started working on Morethan3D. Alright, with that out the way, this is the Spaceship 10 store page. After buying the model in the top right at your account center, you can download the files or get them from your email. Further down on the page, under the Printing and Assembly Instructions tab, he gives you some details on the minimum build volume, minimum amount of filament you need, and the link to the assembly instructions. The nice thing is, for your bamboo printers, it comes with a all-in-one print profile where Anne has pre-made all the settings for the model to come out at its best quality. So before you start printing, it's very important to come to the assembly page, and I like to read all of this very important information through here, and then to know how many, because sometimes you have to print multiple of one part, I like to go through and print all my pieces as I look through the assembly instructions, showing what all you need for each step. But once you've read all that, you can look at that, and we will hop over to Bamboo Studio. Okay, you guys, so with the wide range of parts that the ship includes, there's a 0.4 and a 0.2 nozzle profile. We're going to start with 0.4. As you can see, there's a large amount of parts that must be printed for this. We're going to start with the ship aft. As you can see on the left for the bamboo printer, I've got all my pre-made settings. He goes through and test prints and configures the settings for best print quality possible. Orients all the parts and everything if you've got your bamboo printer. So, as you can see, this is the aft. All I'm going to do is I will slice the plate, which I've already done. Move over here, you can see it, and then I'm going to go ahead and move it over to my printer. So what I wanted to go over while I let you guys see these time-lapse videos is the kind of cost of materials for doing one of these projects. Alright guys, so what I'm showing y'all first is the summary for the 0.4 millimeter nozzle bamboo print profile or project, and as you can see, the time it took for each plate and the amount of filament. Now this will vary for you guys depending on what printer you have, if you do multicolor, what multicolor method your printer uses, and supports, etc. But this for me and gives you kind of a rough idea, and I believe that pricing that Bamboo Studio gives you under the total cost is based off of a $20 per spool, which is a little bit overkill in my opinion. But yeah, and then you will see the 0.2 nozzle, its consumption. You can see it takes a lot less filament, but a lot longer. And the primary thing that 0.2 nozzle profile will print is your heat shield. Quickly, I do want to go over some of the issues I've encountered while doing this project. The first one, major one, was the forward dome barrel section, where it was losing adhesion, and I narrowed it down to the header tank line inside of it, printing way too quick. So I slowed that down in settings, and that fixed it. Another thing I'd like to note is the Raptor 3s at 196 scale. Some of those lines are, the pipes on the engines are very tiny, so the supports are incredibly hard to remove and easy to break the engine. But there's not much Anne can really do about that. And lastly, the flaps are very delicate at this scale, and he has custom supports for them so they can pivot for the pivot joints. And I did break most of the flaps during the removal on my first round, but I reprinted them with some slight setting modifications, and it went well. And for those of you who are very familiar with Starship in real life, you will know that Ship 39 had heat shield test tile patches on its stainless steel side during launch. Anne's model did feature those, but I chose to do a modified version where those were not included, just so this ship could be a more accurate representation of all V3 ships versus Ship 39 specifically. But you have that choice. Also, the piece you're seeing on screen right now that is finishing up, it is normally printed in 2 halves and glued together. I find that incredibly difficult to do, so a while ago I joined the 2 halves in Blender and exported it, and I found it easy to print as one piece. You can find that model in his Discord. And now, let's head over to look at the model. Alright, so here we have the model. I'm going to show you how it goes together partially. Some parts are permanently glued and harder to take apart if not glued, but just to give you an idea. So first we'll work our way from the bottom to the top. This is 2 sections. It stops at here, and there's this section. But there's magnets in the middle, plus you've got a flap attached right here. It will hold them together, so I'm not going to take them off. For when he has a tower, he's working on a new version for version 3. And that's where the QDs will snap on. There's magnets there. Your docking ports snap off right here. We got a little alignment pieces to help them sit down in there. Let's see if I can get mine down. There we go. Flaps pivot, as you can see. If you're wondering how they snap on, there's those little links, and then through the bottom, you run a strand of filament. Now that you're looking here, you can see you have the aft, the magnets, there's the groups of three groups of 3 in the middle for your sea levels, and then your RVACs, which go on the outside. So these are the suckers I was talking about, super difficult to print. Snap right in there, like so. On his old models, it was a lot easier. With version 2, it's not his fault whatsoever. With version 2, they had the shielding around it, so there was no crazy plumbing and stuff that you had to work around. But with version 3 Raptors, yet again, not his fault, just part of making the model accurate, they are significantly more detailed with all the plumbing showing more risk of breaking things. But it sure as heck looks cool. There we go. So they snap in there just like that. You see your magnets around the bottom edge for where the booster will attach. And then, the inside, you can see there's plumbing down there that shows just like the plumbing on the inside. Header tank line right here runs up, and then your stringers and such on the inside. Just really goes to show how incredibly detailed these models are. And then on the top, you can see the interface, which stays pretty much the same the entire way of the vehicle, of 2 magnets here, 2 here, and then here the locating pins. So now I'm going to slide this over where you can see it a little bit better. Next comes this next section. There may be a little bit of a cut because it's hard to put down in there. But if you're familiar with Starship, you'll know about these fuel transfer lines. These are magnets on there, I just didn't take them off. So now I'm going to work on putting this down in there. So now I've got that on. This piece right here, I will show you. I'm going to tilt this up a little bit for you guys. This is the line it snaps on with the magnet as well. Sits right down here. You'll rotate it that way. An arrow showing the direction of how that fuel would flow inside the vehicle. We have our next section right here. I'm just going to snap this on here.
this forward dome piece, this is what I was talking about earlier in the video. If you're listening, that is normally printed in 2 halves, you glue together. I print in 1, pops right on here. It can be popped out again, it's not just, you don't have to glue it. Then your payload section, that everybody loves, a functional PEZ door, docking ports that come off again. You can see your header tank lines, and I'll show you while it's here. Here's this PEZ dispenser, and you can open the PEZ door and pull each out with the magnets. So 2 rows of 10, and this top that snaps on there. So this slides down there perfectly. There's magnets, and then snap it right on top. Boom. Lastly, nose cone. Once again, these flaps pivot. Got your SpaceX logo, Starlink dishes, catch points, crazy detail. These snap in here, COPV clusters, as well as your 2 header tanks up there and their fuel lines, which all come apart with magnets. And those snap to the rest of the vehicle. Just gonna pop it up on here, and boom, there she is. And that is your Morethan3D Starship. So next, let's hop over to the final review. So I just want to share my final thoughts. The model was fun to build, tedious, a lot more tedious than you think when you're getting into it, at least in my experience. A couple of hiccups along the way that I shared earlier, but that's expected with any project, especially when you're dealing with 3D printers. But overall, I think it was worth the money. All of his products have been. And I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I look forward to seeing you guys again.